morning. I'm Shawn Pratt, Athletic Director, McKinney ISD. I'm joined here this morning by our three head football coaches and campus coordinators. To my right, Don Drake, head football coach at Boyd High School, Coach Mike Fecci at McKinney North, and Coach Jeff Smith from McKinney High School. This morning we're going to come together and look back at this past fall a little bit and look forward to off-season and next football season, and then also discuss some topics that are pretty important in high school football today. So I'm going to start with Coach Drake right here and just talk a little bit about the past season, just a summary, the expectations going into the season, how the season went, and how it ended. Coach Drake?
We felt good coming into the year. We had a strong nucleus of kids that were returning from last year's team. Our expectation was to do what we needed to do to make the playoffs, which we knew was going to be a pretty big challenge considering the new district that we were going to be in. It's pretty competitive, and we had a pretty tough non-district schedule as well, so we knew we had our hands full, but we felt good about the group of kids that we had, especially the senior leadership. Dropped a couple of games early, to Mesquite Horn and to Coppell. I thought our win at Garland against Garland was huge for us. It kind of gave us some momentum headed into the next 4 weeks after that, which we were able to get the wins against Plano West and against Plano, which were huge in terms of setting us up for an opportunity to make the playoffs. So, I was real proud of the kids, what they were able to accomplish, what they were able to do. We had some young kids that had to play, particularly in the defensive line, and we were pretty concerned about that headed into the fall, but I thought those kids responded well and did a great job. Unfortunately, the season ended quicker than we wanted it to with that loss to Jesuit, which is difficult, especially when you have to tell those seniors goodbye. They've done such a great job. But overall, I thought it was a great year and a very competitive schedule. Our kids finished 6-5, and I thought battled and played tough and represented our high school very well.
Coach Fecci, tell us a little bit about McKinney North's season.
Yeah, very similar to Don and them at Boyd. We had high expectations coming into the year. We were actually, a lot of polls picked to make the playoffs, which was nice for us. We were kind of used to being on the other end of that deal where people outside of our building and outside of McKinney didn't expect a lot of us, but they did this year. We had a lot of kids coming back. Kind of like Coach Drake, we started off the year not like we wanted. Lost our first 3 ball games to Prosper, Frisco, Centennial, some really quality football teams. But by playing those, I thought it would prepare us to get us ready for the district we were going to be in. Played in a pretty competitive district. It was an up and down year for us, and had a new defensive coordinator coming on board that took us a while to kind of to gel on defense, and we won some close games. We lost some close games in district. We gave ourselves a chance there at the end. Anytime you can have a chance there towards the end of district to give yourself a chance to get in, that's what you want. But it didn't work out for us, and it was a disappointing year for me and for our kids. But at the same time, I was proud of the fact how our kids played. I thought we played extremely hard week in and week out. It just one of those years that just didn't work out for us. But we had a great group of senior kids that had played a lot of football for us the last few years, and it's sad to see those guys go. But at the same time, we got a lot of guys coming back next year that we're excited about, and it was a tough year, but it was a good year, and it's one that I told those kids when it ended, this is kind of one of those things you can take and learn a lot from, because they never gave up on themselves, never gave up on each other, and I'm proud of them for that.
Okay, Coach Smith.
Well, talking about your seniors, I know going into the season, we had a great core coming back as well. We had just moved into a new district, moving up to 5A, so that was a big challenge. We knew that was going to be a big challenge for us, but I was excited because I felt like our leadership and our core group of seniors that we had coming back were exactly what we needed, as we go into that schedule. And from off season through the summer to the course of the season, when we started, just real proud of the kids, real proud of our seniors, the way they led, the way they attacked off season. A big thing that we needed to do coming off the season we did prior was just gain confidence, and we felt like we needed to gain confidence through off season, learning how to win, learning how to play together, learning how to overcome adversity, the things that we always coach, so going into the season, starting the way we did, I was very excited for our kids, for our community, for our parents. They worked really hard, and to start 4-0 was a good thing for our kids. It really boosted our confidence, and felt like our kids believed we had a good football team and we could compete. And going to the Denton Ryan game, which is a quality program, I think that We didn't win that game. We played very well, and so did Denton Ryan. And even though we lost that game, I think it gave us a lot of confidence going into district that we could play with a top-tier program and that we're pretty good. You know, we're a good football team, and we can get it done. And you know, our kids going into that district schedule, you can ask Coach Drake. You know, it's a juggernaut of good football teams. Every week is filled with great football players, well-coached teams, and you know, so our goal was to make the playoffs, you know, and to compete, and we felt like we could do that. And the game against Plano East was really our defining moment, one of our chances that to really go out and do something. Our kids did, and from that we had a chance to make the playoffs even to the last week. And so that we couldn't have asked for anything more than have a chance going into the last game against Boyd and have a chance to make the playoffs. So for that, I'm really proud of our kids. I'm really proud of the work they put in to those seniors. Like we all will say, you know, we just are so proud of them and what they did, and you know, how they worked through this season. And again, we got some good kids coming back, and they're going to have to step up, and you know, that's what we've already started already, you know, with off season. But just a great group of kids, and it was a good year. I know we're disappointed we didn't make the playoffs. That was disappointing, but a lot of positives this year.
Sure. You know, you guys talked about your districts being tough, and I think everybody knew 10-5A was tough. 13-4A ended up being very tough, and ended up going 4-0 the first week of the playoffs. And of course, 10-5A had two teams playing this last weekend in quarterfinals, and got another one advancing to the semifinals for this next weekend. So I don't think there's any doubt they're both really good football districts. All you guys mentioned in your talks about your seniors that are leaving, and you know, I think every year, you know, your seniors are going to drive and lead and be the leadership for your football teams. Tell us a little bit about some of those seniors that maybe have an opportunity to go to the next level and play in college. And I know a lot of that will still maybe happen this spring, especially for some of the smaller schools and things. But tell us about your guys that want to go play. You know they want to go play, or if they have offers and those kind of things. Coach Fecci, why don't you start us?
Yeah, I think one that jumps to mind right off the bat is Evan Jones for me. Evan's been a two-way player for us the last 2 years. You know, he's gotten a lot of looks here lately. The thing is, Evan's a good football player, plays football hard, but he's got tremendous grades. He's got the kind of grades where when guys walk in, it doesn't matter if it's anybody, to be honest with you. They look at his grades, and he can get in just about anywhere with the test scores that he has and the grades that he has. So we feel like Evan will get an offer here pretty soon, we hope. Malik Golden, our corner, who didn't play a lot for us last year. So we don't have you know, he's kind of raw still, but he's just got such a huge upside athletically. Can jump, can run. He's got some looks. He's kind of a dual sport kid. Some guys are looking at him as a track football type athlete. And then I got just a number of other guys that are probably going to play Division III football. You know, Eric Mills probably, Dominique Parrish, guys that have come to us and expressed interest for that. But you know, so we got some kids that we think are going to get there. It's just like, you know, like I say, it's you guys know it's a strange process when you work through it sometimes, but I think the whole key for the ones that are looking to do it is they've got grades to go do that, and we're proud of them for that.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, looking down my list of kids and talking to my kids as you're going into recruiting, and we tell our young kids it's all about these grades. You know, you're going to open up so many doors by doing it in the classroom. You know, you're going to have lots of opportunities, not just through your athletic ability, but through making good grades. And we've got a good list of kids that have done both. Robert Somborn, our quarterback, has had interest from several colleges. Cornell is one that's really interested in Robert right now, and he's been on an official visit there. And there's some other schools that have kind of come here later, and there could be more that come kind of late down the stretch, you know. But I know Robert has really put himself in a great position by how he's played the last 3 years, and then in the classroom. He's just a great student, and he was a great leader on our football team. You know, it's one thing, you could sleep pretty good at night knowing he was playing quarterback and the ball was in his hands. And so I'm excited about the opportunity for him. Red Shannon is going to have opportunities as well. He's a dual sport guy, a lot like Malik, and you know, he plays basketball at a high level, and really I think he's going to have an opportunity to look at both of those options. He's already got opportunities football-wise, some Division II, some 1AAs that are interested in him, and so we're going to kind of see what shakes out over the next couple of weeks with that. But I think he's going to have opportunities, and a lot like Mike. I mean, I've got guys, Troy Taylor, Jamani Ross Brown, Matt Reynolds, several guys that played key roles this year that are excited about playing college football. They're just going to be kind of weighing those options and seeing what happens as we get closer to January and February. But good group of guys. We've got several that want to play the next level, and I'm excited about that chance that they're going to get.
Okay. Coach Drake?
Well, Brian Driscoll is the only kid we have so far that has offers. He's got an offer to New Mexico and to the Naval Academy and the Air Force Academy. He's got an offer to Incarnate Word, which is moving up to Division I FCS next year. I know Abilene Christian was in last week. They've got a real sincere interest in Brian as well. So Brian's going to have some well-deserved options out there for him. He's still going to take some visits in January before he decides which route he wants to go. As for our other kids, just like everybody else, we've had several of the D2, D3 guys come through in the last couple of weeks, and they'll continue through this month. Just looking at the rest of the kids that we have out there, I know Peyton Matisic, who played inside linebacker for us, and Ben Boucher at outside linebacker, and Dalen Markham at safety, and Chris Stanton at corner, and Alex Shaheen in the offensive line. These are all kids that are really good football players, really good, have done a great job. They're good academically, and so these guys are taking film from them now and evaluating that and seeing where they may potentially be a fit within their program. So we'll just have to wait till January and possibly into February to find out, which of those guys may get an opportunity to play at the next level.
I know it's a tricky process, and I know you guys do a great job of getting that film out and getting those coaches everything they need for your kids, and I appreciate what y'all do for them, and I hope it works out for our McKinney ISD athletes this spring, and they get to go where they want to go in places that are good fits for them. So talk a little bit about the players coming next year that we ought to be looking for when we get to next fall. Jeff, you want to start with McKinney High School?
Sure. We've got a group we feel pretty good about. We've got TV Williams, one of our outside receivers, did a really good job for us this year, had over 700 yards receiving, and he's coming back along with the other receiver on the other side, Dalen Willis. And it's good to have a couple good receivers outside that are both coming back and have experience. And I felt like Dalen just got better, and TV was really consistent all year long and made big plays. And in the backfield, we got 3 running backs back, and they all played at different times because of injury. And when you go through the schedule like either one of these guys, I mean, you need a few, I guess unless you're Driscoll, he just he didn't get hurt. He just kept motoring through it. But we had some injuries in 3 guys, and so all 3, Tommy Candela and Xavier Taylor and our last one, I can't remember. I'll get back to it, but. All 3 of those guys did a really good job. And, for us, on the offensive line, we've got a couple of guys coming back, Ty Stone and Cooper Carson and David Tachi, all 3 of those guys. And on the defensive side of the ball, we've got a couple of DBs that played in and out at corner for us. We had a lot of seniors back there, also at linebacker. So Reed Thompson's really the only linebacker we have coming back. And then Kenan Samuel on the defensive line did a really good job for us, and he'll be coming back with John Kent Calhoun. So we got some guys, John Tro Rockamore at safety, did a really good job for us. And so, it's exciting. It's always, it's time for those guys to step up and carry on. Antonio Oliver's my other running back. So, and Antonio did a really good job for us. I just couldn't remember, but did a really good job for us. But, it's a big burden, and it's time for those guys to step up.
Well, we had 29 seniors this year, and several of those guys contributed for us, and so we're graduating a lot of our starting core on both sides of the football. Obviously Brian being the one that everybody's most familiar with, and I'm sure the question will be how we're going to replace a kid like Brian, which I don't think he replaced people of his caliber, but we feel good about Dedrick Scrivens, who was a sophomore for us that came in and played at the slot, so he'll move to the backfield. We returned Curtis Ladd at quarterback, who'll be a 3-year starter for us, so pretty excited about what he's done so far, and obviously looking forward to what he'll be able to accomplish next year. We'll have to retool our offensive line. All 5 of those guys, well, I'd say 4 of those 5 are graduating. Zeus Barrio was a junior for us that started at right tackle, so we'll have him back, but we've got to go find four guys to step in and fill those roles. We graduated both tight ends that we used. The majority of our receiving core is gone, so we've got a lot of places offensively that we have to retool, and we have to find some kids that will step up and fill those roles for us. Defensively, Adam Brown returns at inside linebacker, which, Adam was a huge success story for us this year. Adam Kim was injured in the Coppell game, and Adam Brown was a junior inside linebacker that had to come in and start playing and just played phenomenally well for us throughout the remaining part of the year. So we're excited about having him back inside. I touched a minute ago about our young defensive line. We ended up with 3 sophomores that ended up playing in there a lot for us. Tyler Ferguson being a junior for us also started there, and that was his first year on the varsity. So returning Tyler as a senior, and then Kyle Seamus and Ross Madisick and those guys up front that were sophomores that played a lot of snaps for us this year. We're pretty excited about what we return there. Paxton Larson and Robert Norn will both be senior corners for us coming back, along with Kalen Young, who's played some snaps for us this year as well. We've got to go find a couple of safeties. We graduated both of those, and outside linebacker, we're graduating both of those guys. So we've got a lot of spots we have to fill, but we feel really good about the underclassmen that we have, that whether they're coming up off of our JV program or they played some special teams roles for us this year or got some snaps due to injury, et cetera. We feel like we've got a pretty good nucleus of kids that can fill in and take over those spots.
I think, for us, offensively we'll have about 8 guys back, about 8 starters back. Mainly our offensive line's all back. Shawn Yu was the only senior we had on the offensive line, so we've got Nathan Knipe, Austin Horton, Travis Chapman, Uche Guanze all back. And for us offensively, like you guys and everybody else, it all starts right there. And we really, really are excited about those guys coming back for us and how much better we think they'll get through a really good off season. Ronald Jones will be back. He was a sophomore running back that got to play when Trey Smith was hurt the first district game of the year, and Trey missed the entire district season. So Trey and Ronald will be back in the backfield. Ducey will be back for us offensively. Gabe Constantine is a very talented dual threat kid, plays outside receiver, inside receiver, and quarterback. Both are outside receivers. KJ Bulacek and Trey Sanders are back for us offensively. Now defensively, it's a whole different story. We pretty much graduated that whole group with the exception of Tyler Files over there, so we've got a lot of spots to fill. We have a very talented freshman class that's coming up that'll be sophomores. They're very athletic kids that we feel like some of those kids can step into some of those roles for us, and we got kids coming up off the JV. So, that's what we're doing right now, like you guys are, is trying to find those spots and trying to find where we can plug those kids in and go with. But, we got a good nucleus coming back that's not only good kids, but they're very, very good leaders. I feel like I've got a class of going to be seniors next year that really understand that leadership role that they have to take on. And so far up to this point, they've done a really good job of that. So, we'll see where we go from there.
Gotcha. We'll look up, and some of those same guys we'll be talking about what their opportunities for colleges are. I want to talk a little bit about that process a little bit. I mentioned earlier you guys do a lot of great things in terms of film and marketing your kids basically to the colleges. We do a lot more here than I've seen in other places. I know that. But it's I think sometimes people are confused. They go to y'all's games, they see a kid that's a really good high school football player, and they'll make you'll bump into them somewhere, and they're like, oh, where's that guy going to college? And you tell them, well, he's not going to go play college football, and they're shocked. And I think and it's not an exact science. I mean, I was reading things this weekend about Johnny Manziel just won the Heisman Trophy, and every Longhorn fan in Texas wants to know why didn't we offer him. Every Baylor and TCU fan are going, well, if he wasn't that highly recruited, how come we weren't in on it? And then others are saying, well, how come he had to commit to Oregon before any Texas school would offer and he could come back? And the stories are Mike Sherman had to be sold on him. So it's not an exact science, but talk a little bit about that as those recruiters come through and you try to sell your kids, and we've all had those great high school players that we've struggled. I had one, David Douglas, that I had to fight to get a scholarship, and he's in the NFL now. I mean, it's not an exact science, and just give me a short little something about that process from y'all's eyes as you're trying to sell your kids and get them where they want to be or need to be in college.
I think with the addition of Huddle.com, which we all utilize now, it's made it a whole lot easier in terms of the film aspect of it, because we're able to take those highlights and create them a lot easier. The kids can even help start creating their own highlights, which I think is important to get them involved in that as well. the kids and the parents in terms of the highlight piece, but we're able then to email that out to as many people as we can. And exposure is a big part of that process. You know, I talk to our parents and to our kids about exposure. Everybody wants to be a Division I athlete, but you've got to try and create and open as many doors as you can for yourself at every level of college football, just to try and generate exposure, you know. And if the D1 offers come through, then great, but if not, then at least I've done some work ahead of time to try and create some opportunities for myself at the Division II level or the Division III level. You know, I think when the recruiters come through, obviously academics is a big part of that, which we talked about just a few minutes ago. You know, the kids have to have the grades. You know, they take the film and they evaluate, and then it's really out of your hands, because they have to figure out what's the right fit for them, you know. And sometimes a guy like well, even take Brian Driscoll, for instance. I mean, he has 3 Division I offers, you know, and I'm sitting there thinking the kid's led the Metroplex in 5A for the last 2 years in rushing. He's a Landry Award finalist 2 years in a row. He was an All-State running back last year. You know, how come there's not more offers out there for a kid like him? And it's just a matter of fit. You know, those guys look and evaluate at not only the size of the player and what the player's accomplished and the grades, et cetera, but they have to look at what they have returning on their squad and who fits best within the system that they run, you know. And so sometimes, you know, some of the guys you've got are tremendous high school football players, but they just don't fit on the radar of that college because they may be looking for that linebacker that's 6'2", 200, not 5'9", 200, even though the kid you have may be a tremendous player, you know. So we can do so much in terms of helping our kids get that exposure, whether it's sending the film out, it's getting their name out, it's shooting emails, text messages, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you know, we're at the mercy of those colleges and what those colleges see and what they want in terms of how it fits within their program.
And those college coaches, in their defense, I mean, their job depends on who they're bringing in, and they've all tried to set this criteria, and that includes physical criteria. We want our linebackers this height, this weight, this 40 speed, et cetera. We project them here, and they're trying to make some science out of something that's unscientific, and their jobs are dependent on it, so you can't blame them for coming up with those criteria. Coach Fecci, you got anything you want to add to that?
I think the thing I'd add to that, and I think you touched on this, is that, you know, you'll have a guy walk in your office and look at a kid and love him and want to talk to him right then, and then you'll have a guy come in 10 minutes later, maybe same division, maybe even same conference, and they won't even want to talk about them. And I think with the advent of Huddle, I'm just going to touch on that. I think that what it's done, and I think we realize this, but I don't think a lot of people do, is this: the vast amount of athletes are out there. You know, our fans especially see a small segment of what really is out there in this whole state and across this whole nation. And with the advent of Huddle, I've seen, you know, people recruiting the whole nation now. You know, Incarnate Word, you mentioned them in San Antonio. You know, they recruit not only Texas, they go all over the United States. And when you take that pool of kids and you really start looking at it from that aspect, you know, that's a good thing, because I tell our guys, there's a fit for you somewhere. You know, if you're willing to maybe move a little bit, even, there's a fit for you. We just got to find it. But also know that there's a large pool out there to choose from. And you know, but I think the Huddle aspect has really made things nice. You know, no more burning DVDs. I mean, we used to burn, you know, Coach, we know when I was with you, we burned 8 million DVDs in off season, you know, and hand a guy a DVD, and now it's hey, send me his highlight via email, and I'll watch it in the hotel tonight and then get back to you, you know. And but it is a process. There's no doubt.
You bring up a good point. Coach Drake mentioned it, finding the right spot, and you know, Coach Drake said everybody wants to be a Division I football player, and that's true. And you know, kids grow up and watching football with their parents on the weekend, and they're watching the Aggies and UT and the Big 12 and the SEC, et cetera. And in their mind, that's where they want to play. I mean, I was the same way. Right. But reality is, and I know you guys have had the same experience. I've sent kids off to Division III before and tried to explain to them this is going to be really good football. And until they get there and experience it, they don't believe you. Right. And they get there and they're shocked. But you go to Division III, and every one of those players were their high school's best player and probably all district, if not district player of the year. They just, what we just talked about, they were too short or a little too slow or whatever, but they're heck of football. You know, they can play football and they're great players. They're just at a little different level, and it's still great football. Right. Coach, anything you wanted to throw in there?
You know, I think, you we all three try to do a good job of just explaining that stuff to our parents and our kids. And I think, we had an opportunity a year ago, to kind of have a guy come in and talk about recruiting at McKinney High, and that was really good. And we're going to try to do that again, but whether we do it or someone else, I just think it's really important that we communicate to our kids the process, the difference between Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA, all those types of things, and the requirements. And we have core course GPA now that kind of walks you through the changes with our students with the 4x4 and the things that are put on them as far as test scores. I think it's really important that the counselors and the coaches and we're all on the same page. And we've got some really good counselors, Mr. Cranmore at McKinney High, that really works closely with me to make sure we're making sure our kids have the requirements, to do that. But just educating them. And I know. As you go through spring, we make a packet, and they come in and take a look at our kids, and we talk to any kid that wants to play. If you want to play college football, come see us. We're going to put you on the list. We'll, kind of point them your direction, and we'll talk about you and promote you and those types of things. And from the spring all the way through the summer, through camps and things. And camps can be tricky. You don't want to go to a camp and have a bad performance. You want to go have a good performance. So we really try to coach our kids up on what camp is all about and the right kind of exposure and if it's going to help you or could it hurt you. And so, but that's also a good way for those kids to get their names out there, by picking the right camps. I wouldn't be picking going to Texas because there's no way Texas would ever recruit me as a high school football player. I'd have to pick a smaller school because that's just, me and knowing my limitations. But I think that exposure through camps, through the video we send out, through them and the relationships that they build with us, those recruiters, that's something I've enjoyed, is just getting to know these guys and even sitting down with them and talking some football with them, but talking about our kids and just trying to find the right fit. And I think that's the big thing, is they're not always looking for a corner, and that's one of the first questions I ask is, what are you looking for? Because we've got a lot of kids that want to play, and maybe we have a fit for you, and depending on your need as a school, as a college. And so, but, all those things are really important. But bottom line, those grades, as these guys said, that opens so many doors through academic money if you can't get a whole lot of athletic money, just to a lot of things. And so we really try to get our kids to understand that, when they get there as a freshman, it's real, and it's time to get those grades going.
Absolutely. Let's take a step back and look back at the fall again. We had some rule changes this year that affected the game a little bit. A couple that we can talk about, and if you think of some others you want to throw in there, feel free. But the kickoffs, and then players having to come off the field for a play when their helmets came off. I know, Jeff, I remember a big play for you when your center's helmet came off. I believe it was a Plano East game, and a big play. And I remember saying it, man, kept bringing your center out for one off cold and bringing him out shotgun snap, and sure enough, it was over the head, and here we go. So those things affected the game. Talk a little bit about y'all's experiences this year.
I think the helmet deal was one that impacted us the most, and we had a very exact same situation. It was a district ball game. We had a 3rd and 1 coming up, and our center's helmet had come off the play before. We were in the red zone. You got to bring a kid off the sideline, and we don't convert because of the mishandled snap exchange and have to kick a field goal. That was a big one, and in my opinion, I think that's a great rule. I think it's one that needs to be there, but I think it's one that they need to look at a little bit more in regards to, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but later in the year I started seeing more and more kids figure out if I can get this guy's helmet off, he's got to come out of the play. And you saw more and more of hands to the face and more guys trying to intentionally take somebody's helmet off because the rule doesn't read, it just reads your helmet's off, you're out. And we saw more and more of that coming on. I think the kickoff deal wasn't that big a factor. The 5-yard barrier you have to back up wasn't really a factor, I don't think, for anybody. It's a safety issue, and you understand. I think it became pretty prevalent on onside kicks, because you could no longer get that really good takeoff running head start that you like to get on that stuff. But the helmet one was a big one, and early on in the year when guys are really sweating a lot, and in those first ball games in August and September, we saw a lot of that, a lot of helmets coming off. And
whenever it's 4th down and your quarterback's helmet comes off, right, and you got to go for it.
And I think that you couldn't take a timeout. Used to be you could take a timeout and you can
that's
put
what
them back in, and
yeah.
now you can't do that.
And that's what I would want. Hey, let me use a timeout. I'm giving something up to get this helmet back on and get it fixed.
Right.
I'm giving something up in the process. So that's what I would want. If they were to be able to change anything with that. I mean, I understand the safety of it, and it is a good rule in that regard because it's all about keeping the kids safe and all that. But that was big, and you touched on a play that if we hadn't jumped on that ball, that could have been huge for us and a big turning point in the game. And fortunately, we jumped on it and we were able to continue on. But there was a time when Robert, our quarterback, had to go out in a critical situation. I think it was against Allen, and we brought our backup in, and he's cold, and in a heated game, that's hard on any kid. And so I know that play you're talking about. We were over there trying to get snaps as quick as we could while the kid was hurt, or the kid was kind of getting his stuff together, and we just couldn't get it in time. And so it does present challenges. I thought that was the hardest one too. I do think too. I mean, if you got a kicker that can kick it through the end zone, golly, man, I like to give him the ball in the 20, not the 25.
Right.
Reward a great kicker.
Right.
And I mean, Don's got a great kicker. We've all had some really good kickers that could kick it through the end zone, and they're getting it on the 25 now. And so, I understand that, but that was one thing that kind of took some adjusting. But our kids did a good job adjusting to it. But the helmet thing definitely was the biggest one for us too.
I'd have to agree. And on the kickoff from the 25-yard line, I mean, I know that's one thing that we had to coach our kids up on in our return game. Guys, it's okay to kneel the ball. We're going to get it on the 25. We're used to, you'd kind of say, all right, well, let's roll the dice here, because if you got a pretty good return guy, your odds of getting it back to the 20 are pretty good anyway. So, we had to spend some time coaching them up on, when they should kneel it, when they shouldn't kneel it, when it's okay to bring it out of the end zone, that kind of thing. Because you are going to get that extra 5 yards, which is a definite benefit to your offense. But I would agree with you on the defensive perspective of it. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to give them that extra 5,
No.
You almost want to say, all right, instead of kicking it out of the end zone, can you put it on the 1 for me? Right. And let's hustle down there and make a tackle and see if we can't pin them inside the 20, So I think you may see some more of that, too, if you can get an accurate kicker that can kick it with some height and drop that ball just inside the 5.
Well, and those rules, and y'all mentioned, are for safety reasons, and safety has been a hot topic, and not just high school football, but college football and NFL, talking about concussions, and we've had House Bill 2038 that kind of mandated some things in Texas and high schools and how they handled concussions and helmets and things like that. Fortunately, here in McKinney, we were kind of ahead of that game. We were already using impact and doing those things that they mandated, and I'm sure we're going to have more legislative or more legislation coming in this next year when the legislature meets this spring or this summer. But talk a little bit about just you see something every weekend with concussions at some level. Talk a little bit about, you guys have all been coaching a while, how when you first got into coaching and compared to now and what we're doing and how concussions is kind of affecting and the changes of the game and things like that.
I can't even imagine being a referee, and having to make that split-second call and make, that's hard, because you want to let them play and at the same time you want to keep them safe, and so they're walking a pretty fine line. So as a referee, I would say that's a pretty difficult task. That's why those guys are so good and they practice it and they're so sharp on it. I know, you mentioned concussions and we all, talk a lot about that as a group. We've talked about it in McKinney ISD and we are. I think we do a great job through our impact testing. I think all of our trainers do a really, really good job of taking care of our kids, and it's changed. When we were playing, is you get your bell rung, and you're a little dizzy or you're a little lightheaded, and you jump right back in there and kind of gather yourself and go back and now it's anytime there's symptoms that are that you're worried about. I mean, we immediately send them to the trainer, and then the trainer takes a look at them, and sometimes you see them go back in that they were fine, and sometimes they hold them out, and many times I know we've had athletes that have had them, and it's funny because this year we didn't have near the concussions. Last year we had more And I think injuries sometimes go that way. You know, it seems like one year you just can't buy any luck, and you got kids that have freak injuries and things happen. But, you know, this year, whether it be through some of the things we try to do in the off season to strengthen our necks and to strengthen things, we constantly look at that as coaches. I know we do a lot of neck work and a lot of things to try to strengthen that. Just get bigger and stronger, on top of that, to help our kids. And, putting the right helmets, MISD has got us the best helmets out there, put on our kids. And so there's things that we've done to kind of, I believe that are good, that are counteracting that, and I think our kids are in a good spot. But it's definitely changed, and it's going to continue to change. But I feel good about what we do for our kids.
I think our return to play protocol is been very beneficial for kids. I mean, making sure we're not putting, and that's at every level, but making sure kids aren't going back out there too quickly, and then having that second concussion, which often can be more severe and make it last even longer. I think that's been very big. But
I think the other point too is, when we were coming through, you didn't have the benefit of having an athletic trainer that was on the sideline a lot of the time. Right. So coaches were having to make those decisions, and a coach is not particularly the best person that you want making that kind of decision for kids. And so I think with our athletic trainers that we have on staff, I know we communicate to our coaches that we're not in the business of evaluating injuries. We've got a trained professional that does that. Our team doctor is there on the sideline. So I think we take every precaution we can to eliminate the possibility of the concussions, like Jeff's talked about, with equipment and proper coaching and technique, and doing a great job in the off season to prepare our kids. But when something does happen, we've also got a system in place for somebody to evaluate them as a professional and make that determination in the best interest of that particular athlete. It's not a coach that the game's on the line going, man, you got to go. I mean, shake it off, I mean, we don't take that approach. And so I think that's a big difference over what it used to be. And it's a huge positive here in our district that we have those people available to make those decisions for us, and a coach not having to be in that dilemma, because we remove that possibility from the get-go.
absolutely.
I think I'm kind of like Jeff was. We had hardly any last year, and we had quite a few this year, it seemed like. And I think it was just one of those years, like Jeff talked about. I think to speak on the future of our sport, that's the part that I think somewhat concerns me, and as I'm sure it does you, only because you hear more and more things about what age should kids start playing football, what age should they this or that, and it's all good conversation, because ultimately you're talking about the safety of somebody, and as I tell parents all the time, we're not talking about a shoulder or a knee or a hip or a back. We're talking about a brain here, and so I think everything that we're going in the right direction with stuff. I think at times, you can't take the physicality out of this game. You really can't. But at the same time, all the things that we're doing here in this district, like Coach Pratt mentioned, being ahead of the curve on things, is really set ourselves up where our parents are educated on it, our kids are educated on it, and the whole process of things. And it's an unfortunate event that does happen, but at the same time, the return to play protocol is huge, and I'm kind of like you, Coach Drake. I mean, that's a non-negotiable. The minute that trainer says, I think he's got one, that's the end of the discussion right there. There's not that's it. That's the end of the story right there, and as it should be. So, it's one of those things we'll have to keep working through and keep, educating our kids on, and keep trying to find ways to prevent.
Okay. One last thing before we wrap up today, I want you to talk a little bit about your off season. It's all athletics have advanced to a different stage these days, where there's really not an off season. I mean, there's a season where you're not playing games, but it's year-round preparation, as you guys well know, and a lot of people don't know. Talk a little bit about what you're doing right now, what you'll be doing when you get back from Christmas vacation, and what you'll do in the summertime, et cetera, and what your plan is from now until we kick it off again next August.
Well, our kids are going to alternate between weight room time and conditioning time. You've got to train the whole body. So it's not just strength training. We got to train the conditioning aspect of it too. I think a lot of the shift has gone from, you don't need guys that are necessarily just big muscle heads. You need guys that can generate power So a lot of what we're doing is how fast can you move the weight? You know, how explosive are you? Not necessarily how much can you lift. And so, you know, a lot of the things we do are revolve around that. We do a lot of body weight exercises even, you know, whether it be one-legged squats and those kind of things. We do a lot of core work that we incorporate. So, you know, the trends have definitely changed, and we try to do our best to keep up with that. But our kids are going to get that weight room time. They're going to get that conditioning time. You know, once we get back after the holidays and on into the spring, we'll obviously spend some time working skill, you know, which I think is an important part of the process as well, because, you know, I can be a great athlete, I can run fast, I can lift a lot of weight, but if I don't understand the technique that I've got to play with, it's not going to make me a better player. You know, a lot of times you can take a kid who's maybe doesn't have all those intangibles that you talked about, or doesn't have all those physical characteristics, but if they understand how to play the game, that's an intangible they take with them to the field that makes them a better player for your team. So we'll spend some time focusing on that. And then, you know, the summer, I think, is the huge part of the thing, because we work with them so long, and then when you get to May, if you don't get your kids involved in our summer conditioning program through performance course, then you're doing them a disservice, because you're spending the 2 months of final preparation right before your season, where your athlete's not going to come in August in tip-top shape, which they need to be. And so we make a huge emphasis to our kids about making sure they're involved in the summer program, that they're here on a daily basis, that they're working with their teammates, so that when we start fall camp in August, that, you know, we've got a kid who physically is in great condition, so they can handle the heat, they can handle the getting back in the gear in August. And, you know, people probably don't understand how short a period of time we have from when we start in August till we actually start playing games. You know, it's really like a 2-week time span right there, and we've got to be ready to go. And 1 week of that is in gear, the other is not in gear, and so the turnaround time's so quick that those summer months of June and July are paramount to our success.
You know, I get middle school parents ask me all the time what they can be doing for their kid to help them be better athletes, be better prepared for the high school. And that's the number of PC, performance course, is the number one thing I tell them. I ask them, are you going through performance course? And a lot of times the answer is no. And I think in a lot of our parents' mind, it's what you said earlier. We're putting them in there and putting a bunch of weight on their back and seeing how much they can squat or bench press, where it's not like that at all. It's athletic development. It's explosiveness. It's core. It's balance. It's movement. All those things. And that's the number one thing I tell our middle school parents when they're asking me. It's what I'm doing with my own kid, you know, and to make sure that they're prepared for high school. So, Coach Fecci?
I think for us, and I know you guys all kind of do the same thing, you know, we break our off season now by phases, and I think that's important, because I think you're going to achieve what you emphasize in off season, and we're a lot like Coach Drake. You know, right now we're in what we call the foundation phase, and all the foundation phase is what it says. You're creating a foundation. You're teaching work ethic, tempo, proper technique, safety, and then we'll move into what we call the athlete phase after Christmas, where basically what we're doing is we tell them we're building you as an athlete. We're trying to make you a better athlete. Doesn't matter that you play center or safety. We're making you a better athlete. You know, and then we move into what we call the grind phase, and we call it the grind phase because it's that middle part of off season. It's not right after Christmas, and it's not where they think spring ball's fixing to come. It's that middle part, and it's a grind. And I think that's for us is a very, very critical time. Like the summer is, that's a critical time because the football season is similar. You know, I believe you make the playoffs at week 5, 6, 7, and 8, or set yourself up for week 9 and 10 during those times, and that's when the grind is. That's when it's really not a whole lot of fun anymore, and you don't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. So we go through the grind phase, and we move into the spring phase. And then, of course, you already touched on the importance of the summer program, and I think what you said was paramount, and I couldn't agree with you more that summer is so critical to your success in the fall because of the things you mentioned. You know, you get kids back, and you don't have enough time. You know, not only on the calendar but during the day, especially with the way the two-a-day rules have changed, the amount of time that we can actually have them in a day. And you don't have the time you need in that time to get ready if you haven't been doing anything yet. But I think getting back to, you know, for us, it's defining things, it's setting expectations for them that this is what we're trying to get out of this phase and that phase with with basically the underlying theme always being, outwork your opponent. We talk about that all the time. You have no idea what the guy at Prosper is doing today. You have no idea what the guy at Centennial or Sherman or just name any team you play. And because you don't know that, you have to assume he's doing a lot. And you got to outwork them. So that's kind of how we do it. We just break it down into phases, and each phase has a set of goals. And we do a lot of character stuff in the off season. I think that's a great time to do that. And 1 or 2 days a week we stop and we spend X amount of time talking about those things, slowing down with things you talk about all the time, but they're little snapshot pieces of it. Whereas you have that 1 day, maybe, or 2 days a week where you spend 15, 20, 30 minutes specifically talking about the things that we want our kids to do, not outside of football, and the way they act and so forth. So, off season, some guys don't like it. I know as a player I hated it. As a coach, I like it because I think that it's what gives you as a coach, in my opinion, in the fall, gives you that peace of mind to know we're ready, because you've seen your kids put that time in. And it's really the only time you get to really get to know those guys and what makes them go in the off season. So I kind of like it, I guess. I don't know, maybe I'm different.
You're not different. I love it. I love off season, but it's fun. We all have the same amount of time. We all get that 50-minute class period that we can use, and it's how you use that 50 minutes. And like we all do, we want to use it better than anybody. We want to be efficient. We're running down there and getting dressed and getting in the racks and trying to do everything we can to utilize as much time as we can to lifting and doing the things that we're trying to do. And like these guys, we break it into phases, and we call it quarters. And right now we're in the first quarter, and we're in the weight room. I know last year, coming off of a tough season, we really, and as coaches we do this, but we really looked at ourselves. We ask a lot of tough questions. This is things that we do. We look at all the film. We evaluate ourselves as coaches. We evaluate our kids. We evaluate everything that we do. And without changing who we are and what we do, we say, well, do we need to make an adjustment here? Do we need to do this a little bit better? And I know that we sat down with PC a lot, performance course, and had them come in and look at our workouts, and we changed a few things last year, and really I thought it helped us. I thought that we looked a lot better this year than we did last year, and so we, now that that's in place, this is year our kids understand it, and we're getting after it, and so I really like that. I like the character curriculum, things that we feel like we can be strong and fast all we want, but if we don't have it on the inside, and if our kids don't play well together and get along and want to support each other and play together as a unit and have guys that we're teaching how to lead, I think many times we just assume kids know how to lead, and we all know that. That's not the case. We really have to teach them what that looks like and where that starts, and right now is where it starts, in that weight room. And so we do a lot of things to try to mold that team, and it's fun because we've got a puzzle when we just, we have a lot of guys that just left that are about to leave, and now we're putting it all back together and looking and seeing what talents they have and who's going to step up, and that's the great part about off season. And so as we move through it, we get closer to spring, we pick up the skills and start refining our skills on the football field, and then into summer in the performance course. And so in our opinion, I'm sure these guys agree, this is where you win football games right now, is the preparation and all the work that goes into off season and preparing yourself mentally and physically. And so I know we spend a lot of time up there, looking at that. And so it's exciting. It's a fun time, and it's a time where we can really, really look at our kids and look at ourselves and try to get better.
Okay. Well, I want to thank all three of you guys for the quality programs you guys run, the staffs you have here that do great things with our kids. I'd be proud to have my son in any three of your programs. I know they're great quality, and you guys are great role models for those kids in your programs, and I appreciate that very much. So, and with that being said, for all you high school football fans, keep an eye out. These guys will have spring games coming up in April, and you can hit those. But if not, we'll see you again next August.